Hi there, it's Jessie here, and a big fat warm welcome to this big fat warm channel. Thank you very much for being here. Good morning. Good morning. So I'm going to talk about spiral dynamics today. This is very new in my universe. Apparently it's been around a long time, but it's just come into my orbit. And I watched a video of some guy, and he mentions it in the video, and then he linked his video on spiral dynamics. There we go. And I watched it. And ever heard of spiral dynamics? I imagine some of you have, and maybe some of you haven't. It's basically a model of consciousness. So it tracks where one is in their individual journey. So it kind of assumes there's this spiral to liberation, I suppose, enlightenment, you might call it. And along the way, there's these different colours, which sits us into a particular perspective, depending on what colour we're at. And, you know, it's not so black and white, like it's not a clear, straightforward, linear path. We could be at different stages in very different areas of our life, even in the same areas. Like, for example, take relationships. You might be in different relationships at different stages. So we kind of all move through all of them. And there's this sort of like upward movement, but we always go round. I will link the video down below if you want to hear more about it. Because all I'm going to do in this video is talk about how this recent model is, how I'm using it in my life. And it's been 2 days, all right? But it's quite interesting. Excuse me. So last night before I went to bed, well, a couple of hours before I went to bed, but I logged into Instagram and I saw some images and videos of the genocide in Gaza right now. And I honestly, guys, and I'm curious what you think about this, I don't know what I think about how important it is to engage with this content or not. And the reason I'm confused is because I wouldn't want to bypass it by ignoring it or, you know, not engaging with it in any way. And therefore sort of, you know, bypassing it, just dismissing it, neglecting, denying it, right? I don't want to do that. And I do question the purpose or the helpfulness of being really involved, because the way that I saw it is a friend posted in her story, and I do have friends who are very involved, engaged in watching how this is playing out, and, you know, posting continuously every day, obviously to keep it in the minds of others as well. That feels like important for them, and fine, I'm okay with that. Like, whatever anyone wants to do. For me personally, I question the benefit of engaging in it, and I don't want to bypass it completely. So after I saw this horrific video, I'm then bawling in tears, right? It brings up so much emotion in me, and grief and confusion. And yeah, just real grief. I mean, it's just horrific, right? Is that necessary? Is it useful for me to engage with it and then have this emotional reaction? Is that helpful? You know, is it better to hold the frequency of, like, I mean, in my immediate life, if I didn't have any access to anything, if we didn't have the internet, my immediate life is very peaceful at the moment. And perhaps it would benefit me from just anchoring my frequency of peace that I have in my immediate environment. And that, you know, I really do believe that has a ripple effect. We're collective species, so sort of whatever the majority is holding will have a bigger impact. And if the majority of us are in fear, what's that rippling out? And what's that going to create more of? So what do you think? I don't know if it's necessary to engage with it. I don't want to dismiss it, deny it, neglect it, pretend it's not happening. And is it useful? Maybe it does serve for me to grieve a little bit, and release some of that emotion that it's creating, because I can do that safely. Anyway, who knows? And I'm very curious your thoughts, because I genuinely don't know where I sit with that. Oh, my throat closed up, so maybe I do. Anyway, I say all this because what happened in the night, I then dreamt. I had one of those nights where you wake up from a dream and then you go to sleep and you go back to the same place. And that happened all night. And all through the night, I was in Gaza. I was being shown around by a Palestinian. And he was sort of giving me, it was like a day in the life of Gaza. And do you want to hear about the dream? All right, I'll tell you a little bit about the dream. So I had this Palestinian guide almost, and there were two other people I was with. And the first thing he said to us is, whatever you do, if anyone asks, do not say you're here on holiday. Do not say you're here on holiday. Make sure, tell them that you're here for work, or think of something, a reason why you're here. And I'm like, okay. Anyway, he's taking us around and he's sort of showing us what it's like. And we're walking through crowds. And I do remember at one point there was a lot of almost like sexual energy, I'll say that was like coming in and then coming in really close to me and then seeing how I would react, like if I went for it or not. That was curious. Anyway, at some point, I think I wake up and then I go back to sleep. And when I go back, I've lost them. But I know where they are. So I'm going to find them, like, through all the streets and all of the rubble and stuff. And then I bump into two people. And one of them is another Palestinian. And he, there was an instant recognition there. He's like, whoa. Like, we're both surprised and excited to see each other. And then he's with an American woman. Anyway, I start chatting to the American woman, and she's there representing Target from America. And she's like, yeah, she was telling me about her job there. She was like, yeah, I'm here just to like tell them all that Target's open and they can get Philadelphia cheese from there, because not a lot of them are using the shop. So I'm like inside, like judging her. Honestly, I'm like, you what? I didn't like the influence, the American influence, let's say. But I'm like, okay, it's not immediately her. She's just doing her job. And like, if she's not questioning. And do you know what happened? The spiral dynamics came in where I thought, what color is she at? Where is she currently, in terms of her career and her job? Where is she? And if she's not at the same color as me, there's no point me trying to convince her that what she's doing is wrong, because that's very necessary where she is on her journey. So that came in. Anyway, then we hear like this rumble in the background, and, it's like panic and everybody starts to run. And I ask these guys, can I come with you? Because I'm not with my group. And they're like, yeah, sure. And anyway, we go. And this was definitely influenced by the video that I saw last night. And it is run for your life. It is run for your life. And as I'm running, I notice I can just go off on the side, and there was like an abandoned cow farm. And I went and hid in there. Anyway, that was my dream. So I wake up feeling extremely blessed that I'm in like a very peaceful place in the world right now. I'm in a lovely warm bed. I've got my own room, real tickety-boo. And to have had quite a real felt sense of what it's like. Because in these dreams, as I was coming back and forth, there were moments of peace, I would say. There was, or I don't know if peace is the right word, but there were moments of inaction, It was like just sat around, chatting, eating, and then there would be something happening nearby. And there was always the choice whether we react or it's not a threat, or it's a threat. It was like this constant sense of survival. Anyway, so I wake up and I'm like, oh, thank goodness I'm here. And I was grateful to have had an experience. Now, I know it wasn't real and I wasn't there, but it did feel very real. And it did, I have no idea what it's like, but it was like my dream kind of gave me a glimpse, I guess, into what I'd imagine it to be like. And so I go downstairs in the morning and I start talking to my mum. And now my mum is very much of the mind of like not engaging with this stuff, like it's not helpful. And the most helpful thing we can do is hold the frequency of peace within ourselves. First of all, come to a state of peace within ourselves, because as we all know, the war is inside of us. And if every single human being could resolve the war inside of them, then we probably wouldn't have it outside of us. I mean, probably, hopefully, right? That makes sense to me anyway. So she's very much of that mind. Whereas I'm not fully decided on that yet, because I'm still toying with the idea, I guess, inquiring and questioning if there is benefit to engage with it for some reason. And so anyway, we're talking and I notice in the conversation that she's trying to, so my mum in this example would be in yellow or maybe even turquoise, her positioning on it. But what happens, and this is what I'm using spiral dynamics for, is to appreciate where the other person is speaking from. Because what we're trying to do, spiral dynamics is getting you to understand, when you're like, you cannot understand another person's motivational behavior. Like, what? Like, Trump is a great example for the world, where like a lot of people don't understand him or his motivations, or even if they understand what his motivations are, it still creates frustration or anger or resentment. Now, what this is saying is when you're in whatever color you're in, that's your worldview. It colors your worldview. So if somebody's in a different color, you don't get it. You don't get it because unless you've evolved through that color in that particular sphere. So you can have understanding, oh, he's speaking from this place, and, I've been there, and you do eventually evolve through it. But no matter what color you're in, there is always this slight, like the initial thing, because it rubs up against our worldview, will be, don't you understand? And if you are in one of the more evolved colors, it's like, how can you still be operating from there? And I'm very guilty for this. I find it really hard to understand how people are behaving in lower states of consciousness. Quite frankly, like, come on, Now, this is a framework or a model to appreciate that they're just at that stage in their own personal development. And that's not right or wrong. That's where they are. And we can, and there's we need every color, right? We're sort of, I think what I understand of it is we go through and we sort of develop and mature through each one, but we embody the lessons we learned from it, because sometimes you need red or sometimes you need blue, like whatever it is. So my mum in this conversation, she was trying to convince me of her color, of her worldview on the color she was in. And I could see that, but it wasn't a productive. And this is what we're doing in conversation all the time, I think. It's trying to like convince, not all the time. You can just have simple, sweet conversations about a film you liked. I tend to take it more deep and philosophical because it's my nature, and my mum too. So she's trying to get me to understand her worldview perspective, which is like, don't engage all of this. And there I am being like, well, sure, but this is where I am, and there's something in it for me to explore from engaging with it. And that's it. That's the end of the story. And how anticlimactic does that feel? I feel like I've missed the finishing piece there. But we'll just leave it open, because there will never be resolve, I suppose. Wouldn't it be nice if every single being was enlightened? Would it, though? I mean, it would be nice, for sure it would be, but would it be interesting enough to stick around? Like if there was no friction, nothing to learn, if there was no forgetting to remember, I mean, I really do think that's the whole point in this experiment, is one thing I said to my mum this morning, this earthly experiment of consciousness, right? Forgetting its true nature and then having like billions of separate experiences. And if you are on the spiritual path, it's sort of coming to this realization, oh, that we're all one, and it's about remembrance of our true nature. And then hopefully we all do that. So we stop behaving so badly. But then the experiment would be over, wouldn't it? If we did it. And one more thing that I'm questioning at the minute is like, if this is the experiment of, I think what's going on here is like, what does consciousness do with free will? So, okay, it's all loving, right? But if you forget that fact that there's just love, and then you're in a realm of duality, and there's love and its opposite, and you forget, and then you have free will, I believe, to choose whether you choose love or its opposite. I think the experiment shows us the majority of consciousness goes for its opposite. If you forget, there are like a few that remember love and that get there. But if it's not like blatantly obvious, we're lazy, man, and we go for the easy option, which is quite often the opposite of love, somehow. Now, I might be missing something, and if you're sat there going, what a bleeming idiot, you might be on a different colour to me. So please feel free down below to enlighten me and others. Or, you could also be in another colour and be like, what is she bloody on about? And not be understanding the colour that I'm speaking from. So let's all take it all with a pinch of salt and a dollop of grace. If grace can be dolloped. Grace probably wouldn't like to be dolloped, would you? You'd like to be placed. A dollop of grace. Bloody hell. There's duality for you. So very curious your thoughts, guys. I am. If you've heard of spiral dynamics, blah, 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 let us know down below. Please like the video if you liked it. Hit subscribe if you like this content. There'll be more of it. Otherwise, have a beautiful day and a beautiful life. And whatever the bleeding hell is going on, collectively, we got this.